Welcome to Life in Full Expression with me, your host, Beth Wolfe. In this show, we will explore, elevate, expand, and learn how to live your best life. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to live your life in full expression or create an expansive vision for your future? Get ready to be energized to fully express yourself, discover your heart's clarity for dynamic direction in life decisions, and develop your unique capabilities so you are delivering your ever-increasing capacities into your world. Join me, Beth Wolfe, and unleash the limitless capabilities of your soul, experiencing amazement, collaboration, fun, and purpose. Life in Full Expression starts now. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Life in Full Expression. I'm your host, Beth Wolfe, your basic life, health, and business coach. And today in the house, we have an amazing guest, Miss Kim Stirling, who is a financial advisor and the founder of NextGen Wealth Partners. You're going to want to stay with this episode if you would like to create a healthy, wealthy, wise financial mindset. Kim's going to give us some tips. I also have a short course online that you could take, and the combination of the two of us could really set you in a new direction. So without further ado, Kim, thanks for joining me today on Life in Full Expression.
I'm so excited, Beth. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to developing this episode so that others can feel more confidence and clarity about their financial direction.
Yeah. Tell our viewers a little bit why you created NextGen Wealth Partners. I know a little bit of the story of that, but there's a heart behind this generation wealth that you're talking about.
Absolutely. After being in the financial services industry for nearly 5 years now, I've started to see there's a big gap, not only in the wealth gap that we're seeing in our society, but a gap in financial literacy, a gap in teaching not only how external factors such as behaviors, action steps towards investing and saving and things like that, but also the internal side, and that's something that we'll also touch upon today. Our money attitudes and beliefs that we were raised with are affecting us into our adulthood. So that also needs to be addressed. So that's number one, right? Sort of this whole package that the financial services sector has delved into a little bit, but not so much in practice when it comes with financial advisors. And so that's something that I want to call attention to. The other really big opportunity I see that exists is that there's going to be a massive transfer of wealth from the baby boomer population downward, and we're just not ready yet. We're not ready because of the lack of financial literacy and, in my opinion, how people view estate planning and legacy, right? They tend to put it off. And then these families are potentially facing the consequences of not having a proper plan.
I love that. Two big nuggets. So that's what we're going to dive into today, listeners. And so 7 dimensions of life in full expression, a little bit about what Kim's already told us about. We're going to spend some time in the environmental dimension of expression and addressing not only the external environment of your finances, but the internal mindset of your environment. So we're going to address both of those and just the wise quality thinking. So healthy thinking about wealth. What does it mean to be wealthy is something that Kim and I are just going to dive into in this first segment. So Kim, what does it mean to you to be wealthy? What would be a new definition that you would like to put out there to the viewers?
Yeah, it's a great question, Beth. For me personally, being wealthy does not just involve money. I'm very, mindful of my health, my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health. Also, how am I impacting others? What is my legacy, right? Not just my financial legacy, but how am I shaping the lives of others, in a positive way? How am I shaping my natural environment? And so I feel as though if I am able to take a broad overview of my life and contributions. All of that together is what wealth means. And I think that it's really important for us as individuals to go through that same exercise, right? And decide, what does wealth mean to us? There's no one size that fits all. We're not living in a box here. So being very mindful of the influences that surround us and how we can overcome those influences to stay in alignment with our personal values is really, really important.
Yeah, that's something that both you and I help our clients is about their values and
Yes.
aligning with what is important to them. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times as people are moving into exploring, elevating, and expanding their lives in coaching with me and then coming to you as a financial advisor, a question that comes up is, do you struggle to make progress with your finances? A lot of times I hear all kinds of paradigms, reasons, perceptions of lack, not enoughness, and this relationship that we have with money. And I feel from your heart, that's something that you really want to bring in a transformational way, is people's relationship with money and how they look at it, and helping them not come from an energy of struggle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So many of the decisions that we make are based on our unconscious belief systems. And that doesn't just have to do with money. I mean, that
Right.
has to do, and that's
Absolutely.
right. And that's well documented too in any kind of self-help literature. Um,
Mhm.
but in my field too, in my experience, I see the same paradigms that you do, Beth, with the rationales, if we want to call them excuses, but where the pain point really is there's consequences to those belief systems, right? And they're so ingrained in us. So these decisions that we're making based on these belief systems, there's consequences to that. And I think a lot of us can agree that, I mean, again, given the statistics of people, Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck, there is a lot of pain out there. Obviously, something is not working well for us.
Yeah.
And, sort of the other issue I see is that talking about money is such a taboo subject in our society. And quite frankly, that needs to change. We need to start talking more. And I would argue too, well, I don't want to argue, but I would say
Yeah.
that speaking positively about money
Right.
is an opportunity that we can seek out.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit about that mindset. But, most of us, we might be living paycheck to paycheck. Some statistics say that 80% of working adults are living from paycheck to paycheck. We might not even have $1,000 that will cover an emergency, and that's not okay. And I know you want to help people, and I want to help people to change that, transform that. I know one of the services that you provide is a cash flow analysis. Tell us a little bit about that service that you could provide for people.
Yeah, absolutely. In my experience with our busy lives, and one of the what we call money scripts is called, there's 4 money scripts, one of which is called money avoidance, right? So if
Mhm.
you're living by that particular script, you're more likely to just not want to broach the subject, right? I find this very often. This is a very, very common money script. And so if people are already feeling broke, right? I hear that word, I'm just broke all the time. I'm working all the time and I just feel broke.
Right.
It's a challenge for them to sit down and do a budget, right? Budget is such a bad word for people in their minds. They just,
Mhm.
So this cash flow analysis service that I provide is very, very helpful. It's actually something that's very easy for me to do. And it's something that provides quite a bit of relief, because what I'm seeing is that there is discretionary cash at the end of every month for a large percentage of the population. I mean, I don't have exact statistics, but I would venture
Right.
to say 90 percentile of people have several $100s of discretionary income, I'm able to listen to what their goals are, what's important to them,
Mhm.
and then redirect their cash flow so that they are accomplishing their goals. And just to give you an example, I've seen plenty of times where people are spending hundreds of dollars on average a month, maybe not every single month, but if we were to average out an annual expenditure checklist of how much people were spending on their home environment, right? So
Yeah.
decorations and bedding and whatever the case may be. They go to Costco or they go to Bed Bath and Beyond, and
Yeah.
they're spending on average, let's say $300 a month on that external environment pleasing aesthetic, but
Mhm.
they're not focusing on how they can fix the internal, right? So if their mindset is such that they're worried and stressed about money,
Mhm.
what if they redirected a couple $100s a month towards your coaching
Right.
program,
Right.
right? To
Well,
really,
and something that I see too is that I like that you brought up the avoidance, that whether it's avoidance of looking at what your cash flow could be and finding those undiscretionary funds at the end of the month, that a lot of times when we reframe a perception and a mindset about the money, there's so much. We're talking about healthy, wealthy, wise finances that
right.
changing that internal state and that relationship with money and toward money can really help your overall health. And we both know that we're inundated on social media by all kinds of maybe ultra wealthy and celebrities, and I think there's a really icky mindset, that message that's given to a lot of people, that if you're ultra wealthy or wealthy, you spend money on frivolous things and you're not really doing good. And I think that's just a sad message that's being sent out, because, a little bit about this course that I have online here is really a depiction of my own parents. My own parents are entrepreneurs of several businesses. No one would know that they are very wealthy, and actually pretty wealthy in health too. They're in their upper 80s now and still living on their own, and manage businesses on their own. But people had no idea that a lot of times your next door neighbor is doing very well in health and wealth, and it's because they've done some micro decisions, like what could really come from a cash flow analysis with you. Just like people come in and I do kind of analysis on their values and their goals and their intentions and where they would like to go and be with it. So sometimes it's best for us to kind of shut off the social media that really isn't serving us, and notice it in our body that it's not serving us. Like when we start having perceptions of, oh man, I'm never going to have that, or I'm never going to have this, rather looking at, well, what do I have in this moment, and coming from gratitude on that.
Absolutely. And that's a really great reminder of how important it is to make space in our daily practice in gratitude so that we open the door for the free flow of future gifts, whatever form that might take. And I want to point out something that you've touched upon, something that we've touched upon already, is that traditional financial services, as it has existed over the last several years, is more of a focus on the external.
Mhm.
So people bringing their money to a broker and saying, here's my money, invest it for me, and then getting tied up mentally in what the stock market is doing, right? And
Right.
of course, there are certain things within our control, right? We can control what we invest in and to the degree we invest, things like that. But in terms of what the stock market is doing, there are a lot of things that are beyond our control. And so that's been the paradigm, very much a focus on the external, but these things don't exist in a vacuum, right? When we're talking about the dynamics of a household, of an individual, or of a family, there are so many other things that are going on internally. And again, I know we keep touching upon the mindset, but it
Right.
is just as important
It
as
is.
the external. And I think that's the piece that's really getting missed.
Mhm.
Even people that I've worked with over time, you know, there is room for discovery of goals and things like that. It's
Mhm.
just, it's time that we go a bit deeper and really start to bring these things to light.
Yeah. I I think I feel what you're helping people do and introducing is I'd like to create a new financial story for you folks.
Yes,
And I'd like to take you out of the financial victim mindset and perception. And I'd like to really create a new story for you. And what can you do with the finances that you have with where you're at? And also helping these baby boomers get ready for passing on their wealth and their children getting ready to receive it. There's all kinds of incredible ways that can be helpful with that as well.
absolutely, absolutely. And some of the challenges that both generations are facing is, the baby boomer population, number one, top of mind for most retirees is, do I have enough money throughout my lifetime?
Right.
And one significant challenge that's facing baby boomers is that of long-term care costs, which is separate from Medicare. And so I know that's a big concern for them, and also their children too, who may find themselves caring for their aging parents, plus their children, plus
Right.
themselves, right? And
Yeah.
then and then 40 years ago, we went from defined benefit plans, which were more of like a pension style plan, to defined contribution plans, which is where now the majority of employees are on the hook for their own retirement, meaning that they need to contribute to it and they need to understand it and they need to manage it. So there are a lot of very unique issues that they're facing both generations. And again, this is not a one size fits all. And having unique circumstances like that, it's ever so important to seek out proper guidance, for unique situations, individual situations.
Yeah. And I know some people, when you don't have a plan at all, that just causes so much distress in your body, and you're thinking, I'm afraid to save money here and I don't know where to go here. And also, when there are so many unknowns, physically you're scattering your energy in so many ways that really begins to affect your health as well. And I know that's something that you have, and I both do, both of us have a heart to really serve and help people really decrease that kind of distress that's going on in their hearts and minds of how are they going to take care of all of that you just mentioned.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I think this is a great place for us to take a break, Kim. This has been an awesome opening discussion as we are looking at defining what wealth really is, and that it's more than just money. It's an overall big arching picture, not only in our own lives, but maybe the generation that is ahead of us and the generation that is coming, and how much you have a heart to really bring in financial literacy that is not the norm out there. So super cool. All right, viewers, stay tuned. When Kim and I come back, we're going to start to talk a little bit more about the wealthy mindset, and that possibly our behaviors trump information. So once you get the behavior, we get to also take action. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to this second segment of Life in Full Expression. And with me today is my guest, Kim Stirling, financial advisor and founder of NextGen Wealth Partners. Thanks again for tuning in. We're excited that you're here. And in this segment, Kim and I want to talk a bit more about a wealthy mindset and that your behavior trumps the information. One thing that Kim introduced to me was a concept, and maybe you've heard of it, is YOLO. You only live once. And tell us a little bit more about that and why you are bringing that up and why you even talk to your potential clients and existing clients about that, Kim.
Yeah. So in my experience in working with clients, this comes up a lot when we're talking about them reaching their goals, their current goals and their future goals. And if they're coming from the perspective of YOLO, right? You only live once. And I hear this often amongst the younger crowd is, I don't even know if I'm going to reach retirement age, right? I think there's so much fear out there about there even being a future. If you watch the news, there are plenty of headlines that are just completely doom and gloom. And I get it. I understand, why there would be that fear, but I can also say that, you know, throughout the ages, man has considered his own demise in a lot of different ways, and we're still plugging, right? We're still plugging away. So
Right, right.
we
And
do,
we don't want to live from fear. We want
right,
to, we don't want to live from a life and an energy of default that's being fed from other sources outside of us.
right,
And I love to share with my clients that we're living by our design. And
exactly.
that is exactly what both of us are talking about. And I love the question that you and I chatted about as we were prepping. We talked about the question of what if you felt happy about money?
Yeah,
I kind of wonder how many people we would say that to, and they might just break out in laughter and go,
yeah,
"Seriously? What?
yeah,
What are you
yeah.
talking?"
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that that is such a foreign concept to so many of us, because we're worried that there's never going to be enough money. What if this and what if that? And because of that fear, we're making decisions in how we regard money, how we spend our money, how we receive money. That's a big one too, right? I mean, what
Yeah.
if we just felt happy and satisfied and fulfilled? What if in our careers we felt fulfilled and satisfied? And what if we were sending messages to our children about how happy we are about our careers and our money and how we get to impact the world? What a game changer.
Yeah, what do we say to the viewer that's listening to us that is like, I don't think Beth and Kim are really understanding my circumstances of I wasn't able to pay my rent. I didn't get to put food on my, all the food I wanted to on my table. You know, things are a little tight right now in this inflationary economy that we're in. Um, how can we help them in their internal mindset and even in the midst of being in kind of a really rigorous ride down a river, what's some tips that we could strategies that we could give them from the inside out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something that comes in my mind often. The reality is that there are hardships. There are times when the paycheck isn't as big as we thought it was going to be, or the dog gets sick and has to go to the vet, and there's unexpected expenses there. Um, I'm not minimizing that. I'm not minimizing the fact that in some sectors, people are not getting paid what they're worth. And
True.
to all of that, I would say we get what we expect, right? So if we expect that we are not going to have everything that we want and need and not make as much money as we want and live in a place that we're not happy about, if that's what we expect, then that's what we're going to get. And there's a concept called the comfort zone. I'm sure you're familiar
I
with
I
that.
I hang out there now and then.
Right, right. The same holds true for our financial comfort zone. So again, this is, change is not easy, and getting outside of that comfort zone is not easy. And I'm not minimizing that, but I'm saying it is possible for us to create something different. And I'm also saying that it's quite possible that the environment, the money scripts, the money attitudes and beliefs have all factored in to the life that is created now.
Right, right. And I wanted to read a little bit from uh, the course that I do have online that is basically, make money work for you. And I like to, and it has served me very, very well. When I completed a divorce about 8 years ago, I went from over a six-figure to generating less than $10,000 a year, and it was scary. And I used this practice even in the midst of my external money being very little. I practiced this energy and this mindset. And it was really introducing that what is money really is simply energy, a form of energy. What if we looked at it like that? And I began to look at it like that, like almost imagining Benjamin Franklin's running to me like, whoa, I love you, Beth, I'm coming. And, that I'd have ideas to spend them and invest them. And if money is energy, in this particular little tiny course that I have, allow ourselves to wonder what could be ways within our thinking and feeling that could be actually inviting and attracting more energetic money into our life. And that takes skill, that takes practice, and that also takes bringing in new information and new perspectives. It also takes too changing the environment you're in. So if you and I are in constant conversations with other people that have a mindset of victim energy with money, that's not going to be a good place for us to be. So it is great to tap into people like you, where they can get a whole new perspective about money and the energy of it.
Absolutely. And to take all of that, what you just said, and distill it down into a real world application. And I hope listeners are leaning in here. This is a moment where
Lean in.
lean in. One of the more common attitudes that I hear out there is, I have to make money so I can pay my bills.
Yes.
And when you talk about money energy,
Mm-hmm.
you are taking your life force and you're spending your life energy to make money to pay your bills.
Well
And that's
said.
the focus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. What if the energy shifted from, I'm using my life force, I'm using my life energy to do XYZ because I'm so excited about doing XYZ. And at that point, money is irrelevant, but I have a feeling money's going to follow. Let's say, for instance, Annie down the street was so excited at the prospect of walking dogs because she's so excited to walk dogs.
Right.
And the next thing you know, someone sees Annie walking down the sidewalk with dogs, and she's so happy because she's walking dogs. And they start asking questions. Annie, can you walk my dog? Right. So the entire energy force is shifted from, I'm just existing to pay my bills,
Mm-hmm.
to being excited about doing XYZ.
Yeah. And putting our state into gratitude, appreciation. And that also sounds like a wonderful, healthy energy life force that you're talking about. That makes a difference. And that the law of vibration, the law of thinking, the law of attraction is really going to come in as well. And that you're creating a value that other people want as well. So one of the things too is a quote by Thomas Stanley that I wanted to bring in here is, it matters less how much more you make than what you do with what you already have. And I think that's where your gifts and talents and skill set and experience really can help a lot of people.
Absolutely. I mean, how many of us are so aware of what our problems are or the things that keep us stuck? I mean, have you ever been in a funk before? You're like, man, I'm really in a funk right now. I don't know why. It's kind of like that, right? And so when
Mhm.
we're talking about money decisions and habits and behaviors and all of that stuff, we're probably not going to hold ourselves accountable, number one. Number two, we're probably not going to be super aware of these decisions we're making and why. And so having an outsider looking in to how it, so people can try to go it alone, right? They can,
Mhm.
if they're already feeling broke, right? If they're already feeling like, oh, I don't have any money in my budget and I can't afford a financial advisor, or I don't have enough money for a financial advisor, and they're
Right.
trying to do it alone. Again, they can seek out information on the internet, but it might be difficult to apply it to their own life. It may
Mhm.
not be entirely factual. And again, you know, when it comes to the behaviors and the actions, it might not be suitable for their particular situation, you know. So
Right.
again,
Right.
having that outside guidance to help with all of that is,
Mhm.
it could be a game changer.
It kind of reminds me, for, spending 40 plus years in sports medicine and seeing thousands and thousands of patients. It's you sit there and listen to their symptoms. I listen to their health symptoms. You listen to their money symptoms. And but we know there's a root cause. And the viewers that are listening that are really in a spot up until now, I will say for our viewers, up until now, where meeting their financial needs, their basic needs. I think that's one of the things that we can help people with, and they can seek out is to transform your internal mindset and energy first,
Yeah.
more than trying to change your external conditions and circumstances and situations. It's almost like you got to go in and look in. And that was the same thing as I was evaluating athletes. It's like they'd tell me the symptoms, but I'm like, oh, I'm going to go deeper because we're really going to look at the root cause of these injuries. It may be nutritional, it may be a biomechanical, it may be an overuse, a training thing. And once we get to the root of it, now the solution becomes very, very easy. So, that's one of the things that I just want to highlight for both of us of what we're talking about is people that really feeling that in that struggle with their outside conditions. And at this moment in time, things are not being met. The best place for you to go is internal and start transforming your energy on the inside and not conditions on the outside yet.
Absolutely. And, you know, as you're talking about that, Beth, what comes to my mind is that is sort of the model, right? When we look at health, our healthcare system, um, pills are prescribed for the symptoms, but we may not necessarily be getting to the root problem.
Yeah.
Same thing in financial services, right? People, you know, financial advisors will tell you to invest to override the symptom of not having enough money in the future. Well, that's certainly one aspect of it,
Right.
but there are so many other things that are going on that need to be addressed as well. So that is a very important highlight. I think that's great you brought that up.
And I want to go to the next level, something that you and I talked about as we were prepping for this, is the people that are kind of reactive spenders. So
Yeah.
now let's move maybe into a different category where there is funds, there is undiscretionary funds, and you look at their financial plan and you're like, whoa, there's a little bit of reactionary spending going on here. What? And there's a bit of lack of discipline and a plan. Let's
Yeah.
let's chit chat about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've definitely come across those situations. And at that point, it really is a conversation. And I like to say there's the working with me is a judgment-free zone. There's no judgment ever, just curiosity. And
Right.
let's talk about this. Like, is this okay with you, right? Are you heading in the direction that you want to go? Or are you seeing your dollars fly out the door? You don't really know where they're going, and that's causing you stress, right? Because
Mhm.
that's really more often what I see. People want to live a certain lifestyle, but then it stresses them out to see their bank balances going down, right? And so
Exactly. Yeah, they won't even look. I don't even look at it.
exactly, yeah, yeah. Oh, and you know, the other really was, you know, I have no idea what's going on with my 401k right now. I have no idea what my balance is, you know.
Okay.
And yeah, it's like sitting down with a financial advisor is that one-stop shop, where you're able to look at your whole big picture and really start having a conversation. So again, judgment-free zone, curiosity. Let's talk about your goals. Let's talk about the direction that you want to go in. And the other thing I want to highlight is, as we're talking about internal mindset and such, I can certainly help with that. But the number of clients that I work with on a regular basis, a lot of times I'm not able to dive as deep as I would like to, and frankly need to, right? When we're talking about the internal aspect of all this, again, these things don't exist in a vacuum, right? So we're talking about the internal and the external. And Beth, that's where you come in, a practitioner like yourself, where you're able to, you and I are able to collaborate as professionals, say we're all working together so that this individual, this couple, this family can reach their goals.
Right. A subconscious message that speaking of that I got to change in myself. My parents very successful financially, but there was a phraseology that my mom used to say every single month, and she was like, I got to go pay bills. I don't know if I'm going to have enough. And all the years that I was with my parents, they always had enough. But that attitude of I have to go pay bills. Now, when I got into a different realm of people, a different mindset of wealth, one of my mentors mentioned to me, she said, what if you're paying for the services that you receive?
Yeah.
And I was just like, that just felt better.
Yeah.
It felt better. And that is something that I really enjoy helping people transform, because it was a game changer for me as well. And going from generating less than $10,000 after my completing my marriage, and then within 3 years, those kind of tiny transformations in my mindset and my energy field, I was up over six figures. And stepping into action was really, once I received information and tried it on and felt it, and then went ahead and stepped into that action. So really cool. One thing I want to end this segment with, that I want to bring attention to with you, Kim, is the judgment-free zone, that you have an energy of curiosity. And viewers, I can guarantee you that is exactly the energy you will experience with Kim, and a lot of fun too. This woman is fun. As we end this segment, share with the viewers how many times you have jumped out of a plane.
A little over 400 times, Beth. Yes. Hundreds of times.
400 times skydiving out of a plane. So this is no ordinary woman. She's got lots of curiosity because she's actually done it in her life. All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. Kim and I are going to come back and bring this in for a landing about more wisdom, and really diving into searching for some big wins for you to be looking for in your life, rather than maybe just some tiny optimizations, and a whole lot more, bringing in the confidence and clarity and legacy that Kim really wants to share with you and bring to you. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break. Oh, very good. Hey, you guys, how do you like that? We're in our third segment, and welcome back to Transformation Talk Radio with my guest, Kim Stirling. We're talking about financial health, wealth, and wisdom. And in this third segment, Kim, we're going to take off with really some financial education that is going to be giving us some confidence, clarity, and legacy. And I just wanted to say that learning about money and improving your financial literacy is an important part of becoming wealthy. We've been talking about that this last two segments and just skimming the surface on it. But having this knowledge will help you reduce your financial risks while identifying some best opportunities to build your wealth. But it really comes down to what you're going to do with that knowledge, right, Kim?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And so much of what we get to do as we learn about finances and financial literacy is putting things into practice. And We talked about challenges earlier with mindset. We have a tendency to have negative beliefs about money, and we're all our own worst critic anyway, right? So
Sometimes, yeah, it takes practice not to be. That's for sure.
exactly, it takes practice not to be. And so I would encourage listeners who are either thinking of embarking on this journey or already have to really focus on what's going well. What are some of the things that you've changed that you're proud of, and really focusing on that and starting to integrate in other new practices.
Yeah. Just like health, uh, really finance is a lifelong journey. And sometimes us choosing not to buy a coffee one time a day, throughout the month or something like that may not just be enough. I mean, it's a start, and it gets us maybe moving in a new micro habit. I like that. That's something that I work with clients quite a bit, is like, let's just create a little tiny micro habit. But the mastery of it isn't going to happen overnight. And having a mindset and an acceptance that your financial journey is a lifelong one. And just like if you and I were farmers and we were putting our seeds into the soil, we want to keep nurturing them. And
Yeah.
then we're going to harvest it, and then we're going to plant again, and we're going to nurture it, and we're going to harvest again. And I think that's a really great way for us to acknowledge that money is not something that is the root of all evil. It just isn't. Money's energy, and it does really cool, great things in our lives. And bringing in the curiosity about it is, what would we love to do with that energy, and perhaps even, for people in our life and around our life. And I think it's important when I work with people, I will ask them, just acknowledge to me what you're feeling about money. Like, let's just get it on the table. I mean, I think more than anything, it's almost like priming an old pump. When you start priming it, there's just kind of goo that comes out at first.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, sharing my own personal story, I started investing in my early 20s. And I also inherited a lump sum of money shortly after that. And had I known then what I know now, I would have made different decisions. Now, suffice it to say, I mean, I wasn't horrible about money, and I did start investing early, but um, that is where a lot of my passion comes from.
Mhm.
Is, I wasn't always a financial advisor. So a lot of the experiences that regular everyday Americans are having now, I've experienced that. Right. And so I know the pain and the struggle, and I also know how quickly things can turn around
Mhm.
with intention, right? With a
Absolutely.
desire to do something differently, with the understanding that, whatever is going on right now is temporary. It can be temporary if we
Mhm.
if we want it to be, but sort of going back in time and looking at the decisions that I made, quite a few of the decisions I made were due to lack of financial literacy.
Yeah.
And I know that is still the case today. So that's my why, right? That's where this passion is coming from.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And I've come from a family that did quite well. And then I also had my own experience following the completion of my divorce of just really starting over. Even though I've got a sum of a settlement out of it, I still was on my lifelong journey of my own investments and what I wanted to do. And I think one of the things that is kind of a domesticated thought to a lot of us, and defining success, is talking a little bit about houses and cars. That's kind of the biggest thing that we're spending on. And sometimes we're house poor. We're not, well, we were financially poor, but we've got more of a house than really we need,
Yeah.
and maybe a car payment that's more than is really serving us. You know, it's cool to have that stuff, yet again, we're looking at an overall picture with that. What's some of the curiosity that you come in to help people that might be really rich in the house area, but not so rich as far as finances?
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the conversations that I've had with my clients center around this very thing. They're very excited to be buying a house, and when we start having conversations about that and getting down to the why, oftentimes I find it's just due to a script. It's it's
Okay.
it's due to someone said that this is the biggest asset that I'll ever have, and so and they maybe have fear around the stock market and all sorts of reasons, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
that may very well be in their best interest. We talk a lot about best interest in financial services, and so the curiosity that I bring is, again, having these really deep conversations to get to the meaning behind it all for this individual, for this family, and making sure that it actually is in their best interest and that they are fully understanding the ramifications of their decision.
Yeah.
Because that's the other important factor to all of this when we're making decisions that involve finances in our family, is the decisions that we make have consequences. And so we want to make sure that we fully understand how this decision is going to impact us as an individual. And that's why I don't like do it yourself finance, because all of the information out there can, again, not be exactly comprehensive or relatable to your particular situation. It might be outdated. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong, there is some great information out there,
Right.
but it's, again, it's not necessarily relevant all the time.
Yeah, it relates to, being a life health and a business organizational coach and consultant. You look at a lot of the Olympic level athletes that I've worked with, they work with highly skilled coaches, and that's what helps them get to the Olympic platform. And so they can do a lot on their own, but then when they want to explore, elevate, and expand to a greater expression of their athletic abilities, yeah, it's time to maybe tap into some people that have studied it in a greater way than we have. And one of the things that I wanted to end with is, what would be some of the ways that perhaps that basically we, if we could start investing and building wealth ASAP. I know you can't give us a direct information on stuff, but just some overall arching advice or strategies, tips, whatever you feel comfortable sharing for our viewer. What's some steps that they could take maybe from where they're at?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. One of the things that I really want to drive home is that, again, the reason for NextGen Wealth Partners is to lead with financial literacy and education and empowerment. And one of the big gaps I see, going back to the gap I was talking about earlier, is that families are not having conversations about how finances are affecting them currently and potentially in the future. And so when we're talking about creating wealth and generational wealth, I would highly encourage, is your financial advisor facilitating these types of conversations? Are you having conversations with your children? Are you having conversations with your parents? Do you need assistance with that? That's something that I can also help to facilitate. So again, just sort of challenging the status quo.
Mhm.
Let's make sure that money isn't completely taboo anymore. Let's start to break those chains a little bit. And I think we'll start to find that the veil is lifted. It's not as mysterious as we thought or as hard as we thought. It's actually quite easy when we start to look at it from a proactive standpoint as opposed to reactive, as you mentioned before, Beth, because
Yeah.
again, being in this field, I hear so many stories about, after the parents are gone and the kids are trying to muddle through everything, and all of that can be avoided. So.
Yeah, fantastic tips. I love them. It's really about giving ourselves financial literacy and education. I love wrapping up too. Anytime anyone gains a bit more education and knowledge, then you can ask higher calibrating questions.
Yeah.
As we have, both of us, as we have gotten a knowledge in greater things, then you're like, oh, now that I know a little bit more, now I can ask the next question. So sometimes staying in the dark and being afraid, it just open that door, give you a call, step into that curiosity, with each step, the light is going to shine the next path. And that's really what I encourage our listeners to do. Thank you for joining me today, Kim, and taking time out of your valuable day and sharing with our viewers your expertise. And where can our viewers reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is www.nextgenwealthpartners.com. I am on Facebook and LinkedIn as Kim NextGen Advisor. Be sure to follow me on socials. I'll be doing educational videos. And just remember, it's never too late or never too early to start.
Absolutely fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of Life in Full Expression. Again, if you want more information about financial education, it will be linked into this episode as well. This is Beth Wolfe, your host. Have a fantastic day, and it's never too late to start investing in your health, wealth, and wisdom. See you on the next show. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to Life in Full Expression with me, Beth Wolfe. Tune in each Monday at noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Be your most elevated self and pursue a path of fulfillment, clarity, expansion, fun, and living your best life. If you would like to discover the 7 dimensions of your life blueprint of expression, to fully express yourself, reveal your heart's clarity for dynamic direction, and activate your unique capability, visit BethWolfe.com. That's Beth, WOLFE.com.